Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday night. I know it is the night before Thanksgiving, so I figured there's either going to be a lot of people here wanting a break from making food, or there's just going to be a few of us. But that's okay because the replay will be available for anyone who can't make it tonight. And if you can just let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay. And also, I was playing a little bit with the lighting from the camera where you can see me because, ooh, I watched a couple of the replays and boy, oh boy, I looked like blown out and crazy. So I don't know. Does my coloring look okay? I don't look like, it just looked like I had all the shine on my face. So let me know in the chat how that is looking. I think it's looking better from what I am seeing. I know we have Susan here from Florida. And then also, just so you know, there is a little bit of a delay between when you put something in the chat and when I actually see it. So bear with me on that. I'm also doing everything. I have two cameras going. So I have one over my table. I have the one looking at me. I have one at my sewing machine. So I'm doing all of that and also teaching you how to do what we're going to do today. Hi, Mary. Okay, good. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I sit and say testing, testing, testing to try and get the right and left levels equal. It's crazy. Anyway, my name is Tara Reed. If you don't know me, you aren't familiar with me, I am an artist and a fabric designer. I have been designing for Riley Blake since 2019. I've been designing art for any kind of product that you can buy in a store for over 20 years. I'm totally dating myself, but that's okay. I think a lot of us are in the same boat. Tonight we are going to do mug rugs. All right, now we got Iowa, Baltimore, Michigan, North Carolina, California, ooh, Australia. Hi, Sharon. Okay, good. Yeah, I really was appalled at how it looked before, so I worked hard on that. Let us get started. So now you should be able to see my tabletop. And the first thing that I want to do is, if you were here last week, we did bowl cozies. If you weren't, you can just go to my channel and look at the lives and see that. But the lovely people at Creative Grids, let's get their logo on there, offered to send one set of templates to a lucky winner. My husband chose that winner today, and it is Marina Vitale. So congratulations. I just need your address, and they will get that sent out probably next week since tomorrow is a holiday. That out of the way. All right. Wyoming. Okay, we got people everywhere. Oh, hi, Kathleen. Her first live the night before Thanksgiving. All right, so maybe I was right in thinking that there would be lots of people. So this is a lot more fun when you do what you're doing now and you chat with me, and I don't feel like I'm just staring at three cameras by myself. So keep it up. Thank you. Tonight we're going to do mug rugs. So let me know if that is a term that you're familiar with or if it made you scratch your head. So I was telling my husband, he's like my #1 fan. Well, he and my son, they're split for a #1 fan. And I was telling my husband what I was working on. I'm like, okay, I'm getting prepped, and I'm showing him the samples. And he said to me, now, Tara, don't overwhelm them with too much information. And I laughed and I said, I think we're going to be okay. But I did promise to tell you that he warned me. So if I overwhelm you with too much information, it's my fault, not his. Okay, so Danita scratched her head. Let's see. Hi, Charlotte. Yay, she's here the whole time. No Bible study tonight. I'm the only crazy person doing something the night before Thanksgiving, but it's working because you're all here. Okay, so a mug rug is basically a coaster that is shaped like a rug. So you think of coasters, you think of squares or circles, right? Something that just fits your mug. But a mug rug is a rectangle. And the point of it is that you can put your mug and a snack. Now I have no snacks up here because that would be a little bit dangerous. I don't want to be eating cookies when you guys don't have cookies, et cetera, et cetera. So that is basically where that term came from. Mug rugs, there are no mug rug police, just like there are no sewing police, there are no quilting police. You can make these any size you want. So I was sitting with these coasters watching TV the other day, and I went, hey, 1.5 coasters would be kind of a fun size for a mug rug. Hence, this one was born, and I'm going to show you how to do this. This is one that I'm going to demo. Super easy. If you were at my, I think it was my first live where we did these coasters where you're just weaving and folding. I'm going to show you how to do it and make a rectangle, and you can make them any size that you want. So I'm going to definitely show you that. Then this is like the biggest one I made. I can practically have lunch on this thing, but it's kind of cute. Like if you were having the girls over for tea and you wanted to have little scones or crumpets. Oh yes, big soup mug. Hey Jen, how are you? So I just like this. It kind of became that size because I did what you call quilt as you go. So I cut this piece out, and I knew I wanted that there, and then I just kept adding pieces and sewing. I'm not going to demo that today, but we can maybe do that another time. So that's kind of the variety of sizes from smallest to largest. Let me move all my dinnerware. Hold on. All right, then here are, so this is going to be the easiest because we're going to be weaving, turning it right side out, and stitching. The next easiest is this one, except that it's crooked, so don't judge that, okay? That was a mistake. I basically sewed these things together, quilted it on a little piece of batting, and then I sewed a front and back together, left a space open, turned it, pressed it, stitched around the edge. So that's your second. Hey Marina, our template winner just arrived from the New York Ranger game. I hope you don't get in trouble for jumping on here when you're supposed to be having fun with your husband. Okay, so easiest, next easiest. Then this, what's going to be the next easiest? I don't know. These are all kind of a toss-up. Let's talk about how, if you don't just kind of flip and sew the edges, there's 2 basic ways to do your borders, to do your binding, to basically cover the innards of your mug rug. So this is traditional binding. So I just took little scraps of binding that I had from other projects. You'll see there's 3 different fabrics. There's this honeycomb here, a little bit of sunflower, this one, and then some of this. Sewed it on just like you're binding a quilt, flipped it around, and I actually stitched that by hand, which I rarely do, but I just needed a picture of me doing it. I'm still not a fan. This isn't very big, and I was not happy by the time I got done. I'm much more of a machine binding person. But if I were to have sewn that on with the machine, we would have had another stitch line, and I just wanted to avoid that. All right. Oh, see? Jester Creative Space. You guys have fun names. Said you never would have noticed it was crooked. I once, when my son was little, he's now 31, when he was like 2, I took cake decorating class, and we would be decorating, and one of the things the teacher always said was, when somebody says they love your cake, just say thank you. Don't point out everything that didn't go according to plan. And apparently I did not internalize that enough since I pointed out what was crooked. But thank you for being kind about that. Okay, so that's traditional binding. This, I'm going to show you how to do this. This is self-binding. So the fabric from the back gets folded to the front to create the binding. And I'm going to show you how to do that. This one is also self-bound. And I just wanted to show you these 2 examples. This one, I just took a 6.5-inch quilt block that I had just lying around and turned it into a mug rug. Looks super cute. Hold on, I need my mug back. Goes like that, or you could put the mug on the house and the food on this side, or you could have 2 mugs and share. I don't know. I think I want food on mine. So really easy if you're just practicing with quilt blocks. And if you like this quilt block, I will put a link in the comments after we're done, because I forgot to do it beforehand. I do have a free tutorial on and written directions on my blog and on my YouTube channel for how to make that. That was one that I did for a quilt along with Riley Blake. It's called Love Lives Here. You can guess why. Heart in a House. And then this one, I fussy cut. And we're not going to demo that tonight. We're just going to, I don't want you to be here all night. My husband told me not to overwhelm you. But fussy cut basically means you take a piece of fabric and you decide exactly what you want to have used. So I chose this Life is Better at the Lake, and I wanted the whole bass. I made sure I didn't cut his head off up here. So I was just very deliberate about that. And then I just did a little strip of white and the fish, and it became that size. It's about the same size as that one. So that, hi Sydney. If you were here last week, I told you about my 8-year-old friend Sydney, my bestie's daughter. She is maybe going to start her own crafting YouTube if her mom lets her. But I guess she took her phone and was like, okay, here's the supplies that you're going to need. And my friend Jennifer was like, how'd you learn to do that? She's like, oh, that's what Tara does. So it warms my heart. I love it. So with that said, let's talk about what you're going to need. You do not need a mug right now. I love these little design boards. I can like set everything up and just pull them out from under my table and feel like a real TV person. I also want to tell you, I did a little short about this. I didn't put it on YouTube yet. I put it on my TikTok. I've been getting a lot of comments from people worried about my fingers because I'm not the best at closing my rotary blade. So this is the one that I've used for years. I really like how it holds, but it's kind of a pain to do that every single time you cut and put it down, and I was not good at doing it. And so finally I was like, okay, the universe is telling me that I'm going to cut my finger off if I don't start listening to these people. So I went and bought this one yesterday. It is great for kids. It is great for me. It is great for anyone else who can't remember. So this, when you squeeze it, you can cut. When you let go, it automatically goes back. It also has this little red button that locks it. So even if it's squeezed, so like when you're putting it away, somebody can't go in a drawer and squeeze it and have that blade pop out. So totally in love with this, and it's pretty too. Let's see. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you, I'm going to be a much better role model. I was told I wasn't a good role model and that I was going to cut my fingers off, and that made me sad. So first, let's talk about what we need to make this one, the folded. So I used, obviously, the cutter and rulers and my cutting mat to cut the fabrics. I'm not using glue for this, but I'm going to use glue for the self-binding. Fabric clips. I'm a huge fan of these. They are fast and they never poke you and draw blood. So that is good. This is a turning tool. It's just super cute. It's got a little point. It's not sharp. We're going to use that to help get these corners out. I'll show you how that works. If you don't have one, you're totally fine. You could use a chopstick. You could use the end of a pen as long as you don't have the pen open, because you don't want to do just basically anything that's kind of pointy, but not super pointy. And we'll talk about that. I'm going to show you when we're doing the self-binding one, I'm going to use this little Cricut mini press so that I don't oversteam myself. Clips. And then you need 5 pieces of fabric. So I'm going to use these 4 for the front. We're going to do this exact one. So it's 2 pieces like this, 1 like this, and 1 like this. All the exact same size. And that size is, hold please, okay, 5 by 7.5. That's just what I figured out to make kind of 1.5 size of the coasters. You're going to, then the 5th piece, same size. This is the back. So I put that on the back. Then a piece of fusible fleece. You can use batting. I prefer fusible fleece because when you're flipping and everything, it stays in place more. You're going to fuse it to the backing. Now this one is exactly the same size, right? 5 by 7.5. You can do that, but then you're going to end up with a lot more bulk in your seams. So what I often do is I will cut this a 1/2 inch shorter. So I would cut it 4.5 by 7 so that I can center it and iron it like that. Which brings me to my magic board number 2, right here. So you'll see this one, we have like the 1/4 inch seam around it, and I have already fused that on just to save a little bit of time. Hold on. What is Kathleen saying? More to the point, they don't wreck your project. Oh yeah, uh-oh. So I guess she was talking about when you use a pen, if you have a pen open, have you done that? Have you used a red pen and gotten red ink in the corner of your project? Because that's a total bummer, but it happens to the best of us. Okay, so I took my 5 pieces of fabric, I fused the fleece onto my backing fabric, and then I ironed these fabrics in half. Oh, one other thing to remember, you know, I love to talk about directional fabric because I guess I design a lot of directional fabric. When you're cutting these pieces, this is the way you want your direction. You want it to be coming up towards a long edge, not going this way, coming this way. All 4 of them that are going to be on the front need to be in this direction. And then the 2 corners, so these 2 corners, you're going to fold and press long ways. So those 2. And when we're making this, the folded edge is always on the inside. And it doesn't matter which way you fold these, because if you flip this, that fold is, everything's still going to be the right direction. So you do that. For these 2, you're going to fold and press the opposite direction. Oh, Kathleen got blood on her. Yeah. Clips for you, young lady. At least the blood would wash out. Red pen might not wash out. Okay, back to this. So these 2, you're folding in half the opposite direction and pressing. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 folded in half, pressed, and our backing has fleece. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this right side up so the fleece is down. And now we are going to weave our fabrics. So we're going to put the first one down. Oh, I should have picked a different backing so you could see it better. Sorry about that. So I'm putting the first one down. I'm matching this edge and this edge with the fold on the inside. Now I'm just going to take one of these, fold towards the inside, matching these edges. This is just like we did for the coasters. So if you were with me for the coasters, you're going to be good to go. Next, we're going to take the next long one, matching those edges, fold on the inside. Now we have to get, I'm doing it back, I'm doing it the opposite way. So now we have to get this one woven in so we don't see 3 pieces of this, we only see 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that down. We're going to want it there. Then I'm going to take it off again just to add an extra step to this process. I'm going to take this first one I put down, I'm going to fold it back. Then I'm going to put this one down. So you could have skipped that other step. And then put that down. So voila, we have this 4 pieces and it's ready to go. So now we're going to do our clips because we don't want to be like Kathleen. We do not want to poke ourselves and bleed on this. And I'm just going to clip at the 4 places where this comes together, where these folds meet. And for the square coasters, that is all that I would do. But for this one, I'm going to start over here. So I might just add a few more clips just to keep everything lined up properly. I have more somewhere. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to take this to the sewing machine. I'm going to wake the sewing machine back up. Now, the thing I love about this method is that we do not have to leave anything open for turning, because we are going to turn from the center where we wove everything together. So this is a great project if you just want to do something really fast. If you want to teach kids how to sew, this was one of the first things I taught my niece how to sew when she came a couple Thanksgivings ago, actually. She came for the weekend, and we made coasters and zipper bags and pillowcases. I am using a walking foot because that is going to help move the fabric, because we have quite a few layers here. And I am quickly looking for this. Okay, let me put this back up. I'm going to use a leader fabric. And it's basically a piece of fabric that's folded, and I sewed it into a loop. That's how I hang my quilts behind me. I also use them as a leader fabric. So I put that behind, when I'm doing anything that's a little bit bulky, I will put that behind that, so that when I put my presser foot down, especially when you're using walking foot, the walking foot isn't like, it's not tilting so that the back is hitting the metal and this is on top. It keeps it a bit more level, so it's going to sew better. Now, we don't have to worry really about pulling up the thread, because if there's any kind of a knot under here, it's going to be inside the project. So I'm just going to not do that this time. I'll show you in a minute how we do that. I'm just going to go forward and back, and I'm just going to sew all the way around this with a 1/4 inch seam. And you'll see that just comes off. You just use them over and over again. Now, when you're coming towards something that could get popped up, see how this is not smooth? See how that's bubbling like that? That is because even though I have my presser foot on, I did not have my presser foot activate button, like the superhero button. And that's exactly why we need a presser foot, because only these feed dogs were pulling all of this, and this was getting pushed. So I guess it was meant to be. But anyway, when you get towards something that has a flip up, I always use my scissors. You could also use that cute little bird turning tool. You could use what's called a stiletto. They're not just for shoes. It's a super pointy thing that basically makes it so you're not going to sew your finger. And then I'm going to stop a 1/4 inch from this edge. And I can tell it is a 1/4 inch because on my foot I have a little mark. And when that mark gets to the edge, I know that my needle is a 1/4 inch from the edge. If you don't have that on your sewing machine, you can wing it and just look with your eyes. And then when you turn it, see if it's lined up. Or, especially if you're starting out, you could just take a ruler and make a little mark so you know where to stop. I feel like when you're learning to sew or teaching kids to sew, doing those extra little steps that give a feeling of success faster is always worth the 2 seconds that it takes to do. All right, and when I'm at my sewing machine, I can't see comments, so I will take a break and look in a second after I get this sewn together. I also like to cut off if I have any long threads, I cut them off before I get back to them so that they don't get kind of sewn into everything. Okay, so I sewed all the way around. Now we're going to go back to the workstation. And I'm going to turn on my little Cricut Mini. That's not going to be the best for pressing this, but it is going to be the best for the self-binding, and I won't get as hot, so we're going to go for it. Okay. Oh, commercial break. I also want to make sure you guys have heard about my new membership site that I launched, which is basically lots of tutorials like this, videos. We're going to do some members only lives at least once a month. We're going to have some exclusive patterns. It's all going to be ad-free. And I have my founder member price, which is $19 a month or $109 for the year. You get 2 months free. And then I will also send you a bundle of fabric and you get to pick which fabric. If you commit to playing with me for a year, you get that. That founder member price is only good through this Friday or until I hit a certain number of founding members. But I think you're going to be in luck. It's going to be through this Friday. I just put a link in the chat to the $1 trial. So for $1, you can go in there for 7 days and see if you like it and see everything that's in there. And remember, this is just starting. This is like I just opened this, and it will continue. And then if after like 6 days you're like, not for me, you can totally cancel. Otherwise, if you sign up for it now, that will lock in that founder price for you if you continue to go forward, which I hope you do. So, end of commercial. Back to work. Now, before we turn this one right side out, we need to trim the corners or clip the corners. And I'm going to zoom in on my trash can. Okay, so you can see. Now, something just beeped. I don't know what it was. Hey, Helen. Oh, I was on her TV. Oh, okay. I was worried about what beeped. It was my iron. So anyway, often when people cut corners, clip corners, they go like this, right? Straight across, never ever cutting your stitching. And that works okay. But if you look, when this gets turned right side out, you have all of these layers and that batting having to fold in here and fit in that little section. Doesn't work out so great. Mary uses a letter opener like a stiletto. Oh yeah, that's good. That's exactly what that plastic thing was that I had. Lots of things you can use. So instead of doing that, I like to get a little bit more of that fabric off, and I cut it twice. So I cut at more of an angle, and I'm going to show you that on a fresh corner. Let's do a yellow corner so you can really see it. So instead of going like this, I go like this. That takes quite a bit more of that bulk off that would go in here. See, when I fold it, like there's barely anything. So you're going to have a much better point when you turn that right side out if you take the time to do 2 cuts instead of 1. That really didn't take that long either, did it? All right, so we have that cut. We'll stay zoomed in for a minute. We can move my pretty and safe cutter. So now the fleece is on the outside. This is here. Now we're just going to take it, open it from the fold, and turn it right side out. Now this is kind of like one of those mystery boxes. You know how kids they do these mystery box toys like, oh, if you like Pokemon, come buy this box. You don't have any idea what you're buying until you open the box. It suckers them in every time. I remember it well. But this is kind of what you get when you make these. You're not exactly sure what's going to end up on top, but you know it's going to be pretty. So I did it with my fingers, and now I am looking for my cute little bird tool. Where'd you go? Okay, found it. And now I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it inside. Now you want to make sure you get it against the fleece, because like here, see how those 2 are layered? If I push there, I'm not really going to get the whole corner out. I need to be at the fleece level. And then I'm just going to very slowly and gently push to get that out as best I can. It's not going to be perfect because it is a lot of fabric. And the reason you want to do it nice and slow is even though this isn't super pointy, if you were to really jam that, you could push through that stitching and all of a sudden that is coming out and there's sadness and there's threads and you might have to start over again. So anyway, and you can kind of just rub it along the straight edge as well. But when we press that, I'll show you how to get that out. So I do it as far as I can with my fingers. And then I come in here with this, which, geez, that one's giving me the business. Okay. All right, so that is as good as it's going to get. Hello, Georgia. Oh, I recognize your name from last week. Welcome back. Now I'm going to move my ironing stuff over. And this is a wool mat, if you're not familiar with them. It's like, I don't know, almost an inch thick. No, you couldn't see that. About an inch thick, and it's wool. And what it does is it helps to absorb the heat and push it back to your project. I use it especially when I'm doing quilt blocks. It's also helpful when you're doing something kind of thick like this. And then I'm also going to be using my quilter's clapper or tailor's clapper. Let me zoom out a little bit again so you can see that better. Which is a big piece of wood, unfinished, easy grip. Tailor's clapper is, I think, 12 inches long. The quilter's one is like that long. I love these. They also absorb the heat. So we're going to press, we're going to push down. It's going to help get a better crease. It's also going to take some of that heat off so you do not burn your fingers, because this is going to get pretty hot, especially using the wool mat. So I just kind of go back and forth with my fingers to make sure that that side seam is out really well. Then I'm just going to come in and press. Like I said, I would normally use a regular iron for this, but I really didn't want to have two irons and all of these lights on at the same time. So we are just going to use this. All right. Okay, so I would actually press it a little bit better if I had a big iron with steam, but alas, if you know me and have listened to me complain about heat enough, you'll know that is why I don't. So that's pressed. You could leave it just like that, but because it's bigger, and if you wash it, I worry that this is all going to move around a little bit too much and it's not going to be really secure. So what I would do, and I'm just going to talk through this so that we can get to the self-binding, because remember my husband said not to overwhelm you. So I'm not going to show you how I sew this, but what I did was I sewed around the edge, and that is going to flatten it quite a bit more. See how this is kind of puffy? This one is much flatter. So if you sew about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, you're going to be sewing down those seams that are in the seam allowance that is in there, and you're going to be flattening it. And then I still thought this was a little too puckery, so I decided to sew corner to corner, and I did use thread that matched, so you can't see it really well. Hopefully you can see it. Can you see it? Tell me if you can see it. Okay, so I sewed corner to corner in navy blue, and then I sewed a corner to corner in yellow, and then I still thought it was flapping up a little bit, so I did yellow down, across, and down, blue, across, down, and like that. And I used a navy bobbin thread. So the reason I used these thread colors was because I didn't want the stitching to take away from the fabric. That was my choice for this one. You can always choose something different. Sometimes your stitching, you could use a decorative stitch. It becomes part of the look of it. So that's totally up to you. All right, so that is that one. Now we are going to do a self-binding, and I'm going to talk you through part of it, and then I'm going to show you how to do the rest of it. So this is the Cotton Shades. It's a new basic from Riley Blake. I just thought it was really pretty. This was what we used for the quilt along, where I made this alternate pattern. So I just thought I would show you that. So we are doing this. So this is our end goal. This one's already done. This one is not. So what I did was I added an inch up here because I did not trust that my binding was going to fold over and be exactly 1/4 inch and not cut off the tip of my house. Do not trust myself that much. So I added an inch there, and then I added 4.5 inches over here. You can make this wider if you want to, totally up to you, but this feels like a pretty good size. So I think before I, get that out of the way, before I bound it, so this is at like 10.5 by 7. So it was about 11, well, I could just measure this, goodness gracious. Okay, 10, no, so it's 7 by 10 is what I did. So I sewed that stuff together. Then I added the batting, and I thought I had everything together. Hold on. Nope, I don't know where it is. Okay, I used some of the extra batting from last week when we did the bowl cozies. Remember, I had little pieces of batting. So you can use any kind of batting that you want, or you could use fusible fleece again. And I put this on top, the batting, and then I put it on top of a big piece of this solid, which is going to be the backing. And I made sure it was more than an inch beyond this all the way around. Okay, you still with me? Okay, then I basted really close to the edge. So this stitch, see the stitch line? Like I did the biggest stitch my sewing machine could do, which was a 5. Went really close so that it's going to get hidden when we do that binding. I did one where I did not baste it, and I found that when I was trying to do the binding, I was fussing with the corners and I was fussing with this fabric moving. So definitely you want to baste that. Now you might be wondering why there's a piece of painter's tape on here. And if you have not ever tried this, painter's tape is a great way to do quilting. So you can see I basically quilted in the same color and in 1-inch lines. On this one, I just winged it and I did it this way a little bit bigger. But painter's tape is a great way to do guidelines. This is also how I did it on this one. So you just put the painter's tape down, you sew, and then you pick the tape up and you move it and you sew. And that is how you can get equidistant lines really quickly. Now we're using big math words. Okay, so we got it to this point. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to cut it and how we're going to do the self-binding. So what I have done in my testing is I cut 3/4 of an inch from the edge. You want to do 3/4 to an inch. It's totally up to you, but I found I liked the amount that flips over when I do 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to unlock my blade. I have my 3/4 inch mark lined up on the edge of that, hand flat, pinky over here, so that it kind of helps it helps it not twist as easily. But I do find pressing down and your pinky is really going to be the key to success. So I'm going to go all the way around and cut that evenly. I just got this yesterday. Ah, there's nothing like a fresh blade. Ah, you're welcome, Kate. She had not heard the painter's tape tip. It's a great one. And you can get painter's tape in all different sizes too. So I have fatter, if I want to do fatter lines, I have a fatter one. I've used the 1-inch too when I've wanted to make something look quilted. So I did, you know, the crisscross instead of just one direction. It worked great. All right, so we have all that cut off. Bring our little wool mat back. I also have a board under this. It's just not as pretty, so I like to put the wool mat on top. I can't remember what it's called, but it absorbs all the heat. I wouldn't iron with a wool mat directly onto your cutting mat, so don't think that's what I'm doing, because that heat will probably get through and then it would warp your cutting mat. All right, now we have to get this to fold. So we're going to basically fold it so that this raw edge goes to this edge, and then we're going to fold it again, and then we're going to sew it. Here is the sticky wicket. the corners. Sure. So see how this corner, you want it to come in with an angle and you want it to meet beautifully. Some of mine kind of stuck out a little bit. I'm going with done is better than perfect, but I'm going to show you how to do this as best I know how. So you're going to take a corner and you're going to fold this corner into this corner. Now I found, and I'm going to show you this. We're going to test this. I did this a couple times yesterday. It was really frustrating. So I'm going to do it so it matches. Let me zoom in on that. Let's zoom in. Okay. So point to point. Now I'm going to do it on this corner too, just because that's going to make it easier to show how this works. So I have 2 on the short edge done all the way to the point. Now I'm going to fold it again so that the edge of the fold line is lined up here and here. So it could go a little bit further, but then there's some cut fabric there, right? That's folded too much. So you want that lined up like this. This is how every blog told me to do it, and it didn't work quite perfectly for me. We'll see if it does right now, because half the time when you do something live, it makes a liar out of you. It's like taking your car to the mechanic and you say, this isn't working, and they can't replicate it. Same with kids. You take your kid to the doctor, all of a sudden, they're doing great. Okay, so folded, folded. Now we're going to unfold that one, keep that folded, and we're going to fold this edge, unfold that one, fold this edge in. And this is why I'm using this little one, because you can see more what I'm doing, and I'm not steaming myself just to get the tip of the iron onto this little piece. And then you can hit that with the tailor's clapper. I'm not going to do this whole length right now because we didn't fold those other corners in. We're going to play with this end first. Yes, done is better than perfect. The other equivalent saying is comparison is the thief of joy. If you haven't heard that one, that's Jennifer and I is one of our favorite, because you start comparing yourself, you start comparing, you know, how well you quilt or how well you cook or anything to other people, and usually you're left going, ugh, darn it. All right, so we folded that in, we folded that in, we opened that out, we folded these two and pressed. You with me? Oh, sorry. Okay, now we are going to fold. No, now we have to fold this again. This is the part I forget. So this is, we're refolding that second, and then we fold this in, and we fold this in, and we cross our fingers, and look what happened. Okay, it didn't make a liar of me. See, it's kind of too much fabric there. This one's sticking out a little bit. It's not totally under that point, and then this isn't great. Can you see that? Hold on, let me find something to put under that. See, it's not a point. I want it pointier. So this was the problem that I was having with how everybody was telling me to do it. So what I did instead, we'll do it on this end, was instead of going point, having these 2 points touch, I had this point not quite a 1/4 inch back from there. So I'm basically making this folded part a little bit shorter, and then I fold that over so that it's folded on the point, not on this corner of the mug rug. My gosh, do you guys feel like you're in geometry class? I feel like this is getting very technical. But mitered corners are technical, but we can do it. All right, so folded, folded, but a little bit more space. So unfolded. I'm just going to do this one corner. Press. I'm going to press this one. All right, well, I'm pressing and praying that these work. I'm going to tell you about my next live. I have one more this year, but the next one is going to be on a Saturday because I had somebody from London say, hey, can you please do these so it's not the middle of the night for me and I can join live? And since my son lives in England, I'm a sucker for any request out of England, London specifically, actually. So the next one is going to be on Saturday, December 7th at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and every time everywhere else. So I'm sorry, Australia, it's going to not be great for you, but we're going to accommodate Europe this time. Okay, so I folded that. Now I'm folding this corner part back in, folding that back down. Now let's see how this worked. I think, and I hope it's going to be better. And sewing is absolutely positively like anything else. You have to practice and you have to make mistakes, and the longer you and more you do it, the better and faster you get at it. So, you know, if the first few times you try this, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Just remember how I messed the first one up. And then just remember that it's never perfect for anybody. And there's a shop owner that I follow on TikTok and Instagram. She's so funny. But she did a TikTok recently that really had me thinking. And she said, you know, our fabric manufacturers marketing to us, people who like to sew, because everything, ow, that's hot. Okay. Because everything looks so perfect and so fancy and like we just want to sew. Ooh, we have Hawaii. Hello, aloha. And that's one of the reasons I like to show you when things don't work. So you don't think like, oh, why is it always working for her and not me? But look at that. That worked really well. Zoom in. Nope, that's as zoomed as it gets. Okay. But see, that is a very, focus. Okay, there we go. That is a beautifully mitered corner. I mean, it could come in a teeny bit more. You could adjust that a little bit when you take it to the sewing machine. But I think that that technique of not pressing those corners all the way in works a lot better. So you're just going, that's basically how you do that. You're going to fold all of the corners, fold these all over. Then, and I'm not going to show you sewing this because I'm really trying to keep you here less than an hour. Some people might have to still go work on turkey and such. And don't forget, I promised my husband. So this would be fun. If you want to write in the comments, don't worry, Craig, I wasn't overwhelmed. Assuming that's true. He would get a real kick out of that. Seeing comments with his name. Sydney can attest to the fact that he's quite enamored with people doing stuff like that. Makes him laugh. Okay. So I'm just going to press this one really quick, and then I want to show you how I tack this down. And we'll just do that really quickly, and then we shall be done. I think I forgot to do that. Okay. Yeah. I can't talk and press at the same time, apparently. All right, we're going to pretend that that's perfect. Close enough. Okay. Thank you, Helen. He's going to laugh so hard. All right, so when you get all your corners done, it kind of is going to pop out like that. No matter what you do, no matter how well you press it, it's just so skinny, and it's going around this little bit of bulk, it's going to pop out. So when you go to sew this down, you have to decide how you're going to do that. Definitely, I would use a walking foot so that it doesn't push this. But what I like to do is grab Elmer's glue, and you always want to use washable glue. There are also glues that are designed specifically for this, for binding. I usually just go cheap and use Elmer's washable glue. And all you do is you take it and put a very, very small line of glue. That's too big right there. Okay, so like that, right? Skinny, skinny, skinny. And then you press that down. And now you have two choices. And if it bubbles out, get it off with your fingers. So now you can either clip it, and I do this for quilts too. I do this for any size project. You can clip it, walk away, and let it dry. Or if you're ready to just get this done, you can take heat with no steam. So you can take your iron, no steam, because the goal is to dry the glue, not add moisture to the glue. And just go over that. And see, now it stays down beautifully, and it will stay down beautifully when you sew around it. My last comment about glue, and I'm very excited to show you how I mess this up. So remember when I said don't do too much? Can you see how there's like, I hope you can see this. It's kind of like, it's glue actually. It's dried glue there. See how it's a little weird? Because I put too much glue under it, and then when I pressed it, the glue basically came through the fabric and dried right on top and a little bit on my iron. So that happened a couple places. Like up this one, I guess I just really went to town on this edge. So it's here too, and there was a teeny bit here. But you'll see this looks perfect now. No signs of glue. That's why you use washable glue. All I did was I took a damp washcloth and I went over that and I got rid of that glue. I meant to bring a damp washcloth to show you, but I forgot, and I think you get the idea, and you will figure that out. So that is how you would self-bind. Any questions? We could go on for hours. We really could go on for hours about mug rugs and different ways to make them. You can make them just one simple fabric on each side. So your mug rug could just be, one fabric on this side, a solid fabric on the other side. This one, I just grabbed a bunch of scraps. I patchworked them together. You could do strips. You could do a bunch of squares. You can make it any size you want. You can use quilt blocks. So I always say that if you're beginning to quilt, like if you're just learning to quilt or you're interested in trying it out, the very last thing you should do is make a quilt, because that's overwhelming. And you do have to be kind of perfect with your blocks to get them all to line up. So when people are learning to quilt, I say, let's learn some quilt blocks and put them in a project. Like this is one block and you have something cool that you can make. I have a red one and I'm going to turn it into a wine bag. So you'll see that soon. I thought that would be great for like a housewarming gift. And it has the little house block on there. Super cute. Okay, yes, share again about my membership program. Okay, so here is the link for the $1 trial. And the membership program, basically, in my mind, I'm making what I wish I had when I was learning to sew and quilt. And when I was learning to sew and quilt, you either took a class at a store, somebody you knew how to do it and taught you. Maybe you learned a little bit in home ec at school, and you bought a book, because this was like in the 80s. Yeah, early 80s. That's when I learned to sew. So I made wraparound skirt was my first project. But now like we have so many options to learn. We can still go to a store. You can go take a class. You can go to an event and get lots of classes. Like every September, Riley Blake does Garden of Quilts. It's beautiful in Utah. All these quilts hanging in the gardens. And then they also have classes that you can take. So you can do that. You can also learn online. So that's where the membership comes in. So it has lots of tutorials like this. I'm taking all my content from YouTube and putting it on there without ads. That's going to take me a little bit of time. I'm also going to be doing some new projects Last month, or not last month, 2 weeks ago, we did a live where we did an exclusive project, which, hold on, I think, yeah, I can show you. I have it right here. So we did this. We made a table runner for Christmas, and we walked through how to do 2 of those blocks and some different options. And then the thing that I really love about it is I'm creating this technique library where it's really short videos, like 1 to 4 minutes on average. If it's a more complicated technique, it may be 6 or 8 minutes. But you basically can jump in and say, how did she do that self-binding and get the mitered corner right? It's not in there yet, but it will be. I'll do that soon. And you can go in and you can see that, and then you can go back into your project. Or how do you pull up the bobbin thread? She mentioned that, and then she never showed us. How rude. You can go in and you can see that. I like that because then you don't have to wade through an entire project. Like, I know she talked about that in this video, but that video is like 40 minutes long, and now I have to find it, and I gotta go through all that. So anyway, it's all that. And also, it's going to have everything that is in my Etsy shop will be included in the membership program for you. So you wouldn't have to buy a pattern and do that. You basically come play in the membership and sew and quilt, and we're building a community, ad-free, that's going to be fun. Let's see. Wait, is Craig going to buy me a Dyson fan? I have one. I have one sitting right here. I guess you can't hear it, which is cool. I do have it blowing at my legs. He'll tell you there's no making me not hot. It's just impossible. Okay, so that's about my membership. We talked about the mug rugs. If you make them and you post them on social media like Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest, like tag me. I would love to see what you do. And I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're here in the US. And I hope to see you on Saturday, December 7th. That is already on my YouTube, so you can like bookmark that or make sure they notify you. Oh, somebody has a DeWalt fan. I have so many fans. It's not even funny. Hold on. Let me show you this one. So Sydney's brother got married in July, and Jennifer found this. It's awesome. Obviously not for when I'm filming because you can hear it, and I would be holding it. But it's a great little fan to just throw in your purse. So if you're hot somewhere, you can just whip that out. We use that. I use this at my son's wedding too. So anyway, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for engaging and commenting. And don't forget to tell Craig that I didn't overwhelm you. And have a fantastic evening. And that's all I got. I'm going to sign off.